The rain had been falling for 3 straight days when the call came into the sheriff's office. At first, nobody thought much of it. Missing person reports were not uncommon. Adults left home. Teenagers ran away. Sometimes people simply needed space. But this case would become something entirely different. The missing person was 32-year-old Daniel Harper, a respected financial consultant living in a quiet town outside Chicago. Daniel was known for his routine. Every morning he woke up at exactly 6, jogged 3 miles, stopped at the same coffee shop, and arrived at work before anyone else. Friends described him as predictable, responsible, and almost obsessively organized. On October 14, Daniel followed his usual routine. Security footage showed him leaving his house at 6:07 a.m., wearing a gray jacket and carrying a black backpack. He waved to a neighbor, smiled, and began jogging down the familiar path that ran beside a wooded area. He was never seen again. The disappearance shocked the town. Search teams combed the woods for weeks. Helicopters flew overhead. Volunteers searched streams, abandoned buildings, and hiking trails. Tracking dogs followed Daniel's scent for nearly 2 miles before abruptly losing it near an old bridge crossing a narrow river. The backpack was never found. His phone was turned off. His bank accounts remained untouched. No ransom demand arrived. It was as if Daniel Harper had vanished into thin air. The story quickly gained national attention. News channels covered the mystery every night. Experts debated theories. Some believed he had been kidnapped. Others suspected he had staged his disappearance and started a new life. A few even suggested involvement in organized crime despite no evidence connecting him to any criminal activity. Months passed without answers. Then years. Daniel's parents grew older while waiting for news. His younger sister, Emma, refused to stop searching. She spent countless nights reviewing case files, studying maps, and interviewing anyone who might remember seeing her brother. Investigators eventually exhausted every lead. The case became cold. Yet one detail continued to bother Emma: the bridge. The tracking dogs had lost Daniel's scent there, and no one had ever explained why. The bridge itself was old and rarely used. Constructed decades earlier, it crossed a section of river hidden by dense trees. Search teams had examined the area repeatedly and found nothing unusual. Still, Emma could not let it go. Every year on the anniversary of Daniel's disappearance, she visited the bridge. Every year she left with more questions than answers. 10 years later, a severe drought struck the region. Water levels dropped to historic lows. Rivers shrank. Reservoirs revealed long-forgotten objects hidden beneath the surface. One afternoon, a local fisherman exploring the nearly dry riverbed beneath the bridge noticed something metallic protruding from the mud. At first he assumed it was debris. Then he realized it looked like part of a vehicle. Authorities were called immediately. Excavation crews arrived and carefully removed layers of hardened sediment. What emerged stunned everyone. Buried beneath the riverbed was a dark blue sedan. Its roof had collapsed from years underwater. The license plate was barely visible. When investigators cleaned it, the numbers matched a vehicle reported stolen 11 years earlier in a neighboring county. Inside the car were human remains. News spread rapidly. Could this finally explain Daniel Harper's disappearance? Forensic teams worked around the clock. The remains did not belong to Daniel. Instead, they belonged to a convicted fraudster named Victor Kane who had disappeared while awaiting sentencing years earlier. The discovery generated headlines but solved nothing regarding Daniel. Still, investigators decided to re-examine the bridge area using modern technology unavailable during the original search. Ground-penetrating radar scanned the surrounding terrain. Advanced underwater imaging mapped the riverbed. Drone surveys created detailed 3-dimensional models of the landscape. During the analysis, experts noticed something strange. The terrain around the bridge looked significantly different from photographs taken before Daniel vanished. A landslide had occurred sometime after the disappearance, small enough to avoid major attention, but large enough to alter the environment. The slide originated from a steep embankment approximately 100 yards from the bridge. Investigators returned to the site. Digging began. After several days, workers uncovered fragments of fabric, then a shoe, then human bones. The discovery immediately reignited national interest. DNA testing commenced. Emma waited anxiously for results. When the report finally arrived, investigators gathered the family. The remains belonged to Daniel Harper. For the first time in a decade, authorities knew where he was. But they still did not know what happened. The condition of the remains complicated the investigation. Years of exposure and geological movement had destroyed much of the evidence. Nevertheless, forensic anthropologists identified several injuries. The injuries appeared consistent with a significant fall. No signs of gunshot wounds. No evidence of stabbing. No indications of restraint. The findings challenged many long-standing theories. If Daniel had been murdered, where was the evidence? If he had been kidnapped, how had he ended up alone near the embankment? Investigators expanded their analysis. They reconstructed the terrain as it existed on the morning Daniel disappeared. Weather records revealed heavy rainfall during the previous week. The hillside above the embankment had become unstable. Engineers concluded that portions of the ground were vulnerable to collapse. Then came the breakthrough. A retired surveyor contacted authorities after seeing news coverage of the discovery. He remembered conducting inspections near the bridge shortly before Daniel vanished. Digging through old records, he found photographs documenting severe erosion hidden beneath dense vegetation. The images showed dangerous sinkholes developing along the jogging trail. One particular sinkhole appeared alarmingly close to the route Daniel regularly used. Investigators compared the surveyor's photographs with modern scans. The location matched almost perfectly with where Daniel's remains were found. Suddenly, a new possibility emerged. What if Daniel had never been kidnapped? What if he had suffered a tragic accident that nobody noticed? To test the theory, experts reconstructed conditions from that rainy October morning. The results were startling. The sinkhole likely remained concealed beneath leaves and brush. Visibility would have been poor before sunrise. A runner moving at normal speed might never see it. If Daniel stepped onto weakened ground, the surface could have collapsed beneath him instantly. The fall alone may have caused severe injuries. Subsequent erosion and landslides could have buried evidence and hidden the location from search teams. The theory explained several mysteries. It explained why tracking dogs lost his scent near the bridge. Investigators realized searchers had unintentionally contaminated the area, confusing the dogs during early operations. It explained why no financial activity occurred afterward. It explained why no witnesses saw an abductor. It explained why extensive searches failed despite passing relatively close to the actual location. Yet one question remained. How could hundreds of trained searchers miss a body? Experts reviewed original search maps. The answer was both simple and heartbreaking. The sinkhole had collapsed into a narrow underground cavity, partially concealed by thick vegetation. Search teams searched above it repeatedly, but never realized a hidden chamber existed beneath their feet. Within months of Daniel's disappearance, a minor landslide sealed the opening entirely. Nature had effectively erased the evidence. For many investigators, the conclusion felt unsatisfying. People wanted a villain. They wanted a conspiracy, a dramatic crime, or a shocking betrayal. Instead, the likely explanation was a tragic accident, but Emma struggled to accept it. For 10 years she had imagined countless scenarios. She had pictured kidnappers, secret enemies, hidden motives, and elaborate cover-ups. Now investigators were telling her that her brother may have simply stepped in the wrong place at the wrong moment. It felt impossible. Then she reviewed the evidence herself. Every report, every photograph, every forensic analysis. Gradually she began to understand. The facts aligned with the accident theory more closely than any alternative explanation. There was no evidence Daniel planned to leave. No evidence anyone targeted him. No evidence of foul play, only a chain of unfortunate circumstances. Rain, erosion, a hidden sinkhole, a fall. A landslide, 10 years of mystery. The official report concluded that Daniel likely died shortly after the accident. Authorities classified the case as resolved. National media outlets covered the announcement extensively. Some viewers felt disappointed by the lack of sensational revelations. Others found the truth more haunting than any crime story. Because it revealed something uncomfortable. Not every mystery hides a mastermind. Not every disappearance involves a conspiracy. Sometimes ordinary people encounter extraordinary bad luck. Yet the story did not end there. Daniel's case inspired changes across multiple counties. Officials reviewed aging trails, bridges, and erosion-prone areas. New inspections identified dozens of hazardous locations requiring repairs. Warning signs were installed. Monitoring programs expanded. Engineers used improved geological surveys to identify unstable ground before accidents could occur. In an unexpected way, Daniel's disappearance may have helped prevent future tragedies. For Emma, closure arrived slowly. One evening she returned to the bridge for the first time after the investigation ended. The rain had stopped. Sunlight reflected off the river. The woods were quiet. For years she had visited the location searching for answers. Now she finally had them. Not the answers she wanted. Not the answers she expected. But answers nonetheless. Standing there, she realized something important. The mystery had consumed her life. Every theory had kept her connected to her brother. As long as the case remained unsolved, Part of her believed he might still be alive somewhere. Solving the mystery forced her to confront reality. It was painful. Yet it also allowed her to move forward. She placed a small photograph beside the bridge railing. The image showed Daniel smiling during a family picnic years earlier. Young, happy, alive. The wind gently moved the edges of the photograph. Emma looked toward the forest one final time. Then she whispered goodbye. Across America, millions who had followed the case for years reacted to the conclusion. Some debated the findings online. Others revisited old theories. A few refused to believe the official explanation. But most people saw the story for what it truly was. A reminder that life can change in a single moment. A reminder that certainty is fragile. And a reminder that even the most shocking disappearance can have an explanation hidden not in secrets or conspiracies, but in the silent forces of nature. For more than a decade, Daniel Harper's disappearance had been one of America's most baffling mysteries. Television specials examined it. Podcasts analyzed it. Experts argued over it. Families discussed it around dinner tables. Yet the truth remained buried beneath earth and stone, waiting patiently to be discovered. When investigators finally pieced everything together, they learned a lesson repeated throughout history. Mysteries often seem larger than life because humans search for complicated answers. But reality does not always follow dramatic scripts. Sometimes the explanation is simple. Sometimes it is tragic. And sometimes the truth waits quietly for years until circumstances reveal it. The bridge still stands today. The river still flows beneath it. Travelers crossing the area may never know the story hidden in the surrounding woods. They may never know about the decade-long search, the countless theories, or the family that refused to give up hope. Yet beneath the surface lies a lesson that endures long after headlines fade. Every missing person leaves behind a circle of people searching for answers. Every unsolved case represents families living between hope and grief. And every mystery, no matter how impossible it appears, carries the possibility that one day the truth will finally emerge. For Daniel Harper, that day arrived 10 years late. But it arrived. America's most shocking disappearance was finally explained. Not by a confession, not by a criminal mastermind, not by a hidden conspiracy, but by the patient uncovering of evidence, the determination of loved ones, and the simple truth that nature can sometimes hide secrets better than any human being ever could.